Well, you silly. What's up? What's up? What's up, elementals? Welcome back to another episode. I believe this is episode 23, if my calculations serve me correctly. Another dope podcast with the Four Elements United. I will be your host tonight. I'm your boy Fire, and I'm flanked by Clockwise,
Water,
bro.
Earth.
When?
and my bet is by the 50th show we will officially know our speaking order whenever we do the intro to the show. So we still got 27 more shows before we get there, and we're in sync. All right, listen. Last week I mentioned to you all that I want to discuss with my time personal accountability. Now, personal accountability is not a conversation that's had every day. As a matter of fact, I think it's a conversation that is avoided because for whatever reason, I think it triggers us to be held accountable, especially men. I can speak for myself, and we'll get into that in a moment. But I want to talk about personal accountability because it is my belief that when you look at models for execution, accountability or personal accountability is really front and center to making things happen. As a matter of fact, if you look at Lencioni's 5 dysfunction of a team, for those leaders out there, you'll find accountability is the foundation of that triangle. So or the core dysfunction, the lack of accountability, and inside of that is trust. So personal accountability, I want to define it. Let me go define it real quick so we can get some context to it, and then we'll talk to the brothers about what it means for them. I do have a list of notes here, so I will toggle back and forth from my notes in the conversation. And so I got this from mindtools.com, which I thought was good. When you are personally accountable, you take ownership of what happens as a result of your choices and actions. You don't blame others or make excuses, and you do what you can to make amends when things go wrong. That is another important aspect of accountability, is not just everything going right, you always doing what you said you're going to do, but not blaming others or making excuses and doing what you absolutely can to amend when things go wrong. All right. So I'm going to pause right there. And the question that I want to lead with is, whichever the brothers feel most inclined to jump out there, think back into your own personal life and think about some areas, could be current, could be past, where you've grossly avoided accountability. Think about the areas. What are some areas where you grossly avoided accountability, either now or in your past?
I guess I'll set it off. I've been responsible for my health and well-being, right? But there have been times where I have gone unconscious and started to act and behave in ways or eat things that I know I shouldn't be eating, or drinking things that I shouldn't be drinking, or doing things that I shouldn't be doing. And life just slipped away. And it was just so easy to just go down that slippery slope. And the next thing you know, it's like, damn, what happened? And what happened was I wasn't accountable, I wasn't responsible, I wasn't conscious of what I was doing. So that's just one example.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll go. So for me, I would have to say, it would have to be in my previous marriage, because first, the thing that kept me from, well, I became clear, later on after getting some distinctions. the thing that kept me from taking accountability is actually understanding that I'm 100% responsible for literally everything in my life, period.
Mm,
That don't mean I'm at fault, but I'm responsible for it because I'm in it. And so at the time, I was probably conflating responsibility and fault, and they're not the same.
right.
So once I got that, wow, I'm actually 100% responsible for this marriage, then I could look at it from an accountability perspective and see my cause in the matter of the marriage not working.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Thank you for that, Earth. And I'll recap after Water and myself goes. These are all great nuggets. I'm just taking notes, of course, as we unpack the conversation. Go ahead, Water.
Yeah, for me, I think that it comes back to I had a problem when I was younger taking personal responsibility for my success in my career as far as what I consider success. And so in my last words, I'll never forget this. They decided that it was a good thing. This was during the 2008 Great Recession, whatever you want to call it. But the company, I was a sales guy, and so what attracted me to the career of being a sales guy is that the more I sold, the more commission I earned, and they had a really high commission rate. It was just I was making like $1,000 a month salary, and the rest of it was commission. So just like it was pretty much I was working for minimum wage, and then everything was commission, and that basically came from everything that I sold. And so I'll never forget. They did it in January of, I guess, 2009, and they were like, "Hey, we're dropping the commission rate." And so what I actually did is I was like, "Oh my God, that's the worst thing that's the worst thing you guys could do." And I just kind of stopped working, and I just became lazy at work. And what I realized is that this is not a reaction that's going to take me to where I want to go. This is actually holding me back, and this is actually the opposite of me actually being responsible for my own trajectory and my own success in life. And what I equated it was like, hey, I don't owe them anything, but really what I was doing is holding myself back. So
Right.
Eventually, as Earth said, once I actually was able to get some distinctions around where I was responsible for the whole situation, then I said, okay, it's time to quit this job and go start my own business. However, I was not taking responsibility for my own success in life, and I was blaming them because they did this to me. They basically made me lazy, as opposed to saying, hey, look, wait a minute, time out. Stop all that. Get out of this place.
Right.
Go blaze your own trail and take responsibility for what you want to achieve in life, as opposed to they did this, therefore I'm going to become lazy.
Yeah.
So that's what it was for me.
Wow, very good. Thank you for sharing that, Water. For me, and I'll go quick, one of the areas of gross accountability avoidance in my youth would have been, I would say, paying my creditors, right? So and even before that, I would say being irresponsible with my money, right? So it's like I knew what I was making. I had a budget of inflows of cash, outflows of cash. This is my early 20s. But then I got present to like credit cards. So I would count my income, and I would count my available credit as like, that's my maximum amount that I could spend at any point in time. Right. And so I was young. I was probably 17, 18 when credit cards started coming in. I felt like, that's kind of predatory to prey on a college kid who's on scholarship, can't work, can't even order a pizza, doesn't have money for pizza. He's got to, bum money off of his parents, which that wasn't my situation. There was no silver spoon or no trust fund or no savings account to hold me over. So I started racking up some pretty mounting credit card debt. Bought my girlfriend at the time birthday gifts, Christmas gifts on the credit card. And I just figure, like, if you ignore it like the boogeyman, and then those creditors will go away. Just pull the covers over your head, man, and don't come up for any air. Don't look. If you don't answer the phone, eventually they'll go away, and you'll have 800. So, Courtney my wife got pregnant with our youngest baby, who will be 10 this weekend, and two things. She wanted to stay at home. That was conditional, right? We were going to make this work at our old age at the time, old age of 30 or 31, that she was going to stay at home, and that we owned our home. So it was in that moment. As a matter of fact, that was 2010. That's when I met you guys. We got present to the same distinctions about being 100% accountable, 100% responsible for your life the way it is and the way it isn't. And I cleaned my credit up, guys. My credit score jumped 100 points in 12 months, and I didn't use any of those credit repair schemes. I just attacked my credit. I read the Total Money Makeover. I got responsible. I got accountable for my lot in life. Asked for raises, was aggressive in asking for raises and asking for what I believe was my just due based on merit increases for the maximum. Cleaned up my credit, ended up buying a house, our first house, at 31, and right before our daughter was born. So I would say that was so credit and budgeting was my area. If we look at the brothers, as you heard from Earth, Wind, and Water, you heard Wind talk about his health and him knowing exactly what to do and just not doing it. You heard Earth talking about his previous marriage. You heard Water talk about success in the professional domain in terms of earnings when his company changed the comp plan, how he decided to grab the bull by the horns and not be at the mercy of whatever the company was dictating, and became an entrepreneur. As you see, and in my example, as you begin to get present to the reality is, man, when you are personally accountable, you could do just about anything. And besides that, what I find when people are avoiding accountability, it's typically when someone is offering you unsolicited advice about an area of opportunity in your life that is legit. Like, it's legit and it's real. Maybe it's a friend, a colleague, a relative who sees you or listens to you making excuses week in and week out, and they're sick of it. And then they tell you about yourself, and you get mad, and you don't want to talk to them no more. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do this work. I don't want just the four of us brothers to do this work during this call. I want you, all the elementals, to ask yourself, what are some of the areas of life where you've avoided personal accountability? How did it show up? How did it go? What was your mindset, that talk track that led you to perpetually avoiding and accepting responsibility for yourself? All right, next question.
Hold on for a second.
Go ahead, brother.
You know where it really shows up at?
Go ahead.
Is where we perceive that we're the victims. We always feel like we're at the effect of something or somebody. Mm. And we never really realize that we can actually be cause and generating something that is productive and that's forward, looking for ourselves. We don't necessarily have to react to what somebody else is doing or what somebody else is saying or what somebody else is thinking, but we can actually hold the space for ourselves and ask ourselves, what do we truly want, and actually go for that.
Man, that's a whole segment right there. I'm gonna try to stay on track, but when somebody drops a little nugget, we gotta pontificate on it for a second. So, what is it that you truly want? Is a very important distinction, because otherwise we would set ourselves on courses that is the direct result or influence of somebody else that's not us, right? So one of the things that really make personal accountability real is having a vision or a mission, and then roles and responsibilities. So if you have a goal in mind, a vision for yourself, then you know what your role and your responsibilities are inside of that goal. and then ground rules followed by accountability. The next question is this. So we talked about areas of life where we've avoided it. Go ahead.
Hold on. Before you go into the next question, I just want to like really drill down what Wynn said is really key. Because if you go back and listen to my example, that was exactly what happened to me. Mine was much clearer because it was like I knew, because I did a lot of self-reflecting on this, because it lasted. The laziness at work thing lasted for over a year. Okay. So this wasn't just like I did it for a couple of days and then I decided to get out of there. No, it lasted for like a year and a half before I actually said, okay, wait a minute, like they're not doing anything to me. and so I think that in my case, it was very clear because my example was, I kind of laid the foundation to say, this is how it came about. Not that, hey, I just looked up one day I was lazy at work. And I think probably when people are lazy at work, it probably has something in the same area that I had, but mine was really clear. And what Wynn said, I really felt like I was a victim of what they were doing to me. That's literally the story that I had going on, is like, this is what they're doing to me. I think that what Wynn said is really key, that when you understand that you actually have, when you understand it, because nobody can tell you that you have a victim mentality right now. Like that's never going to fly if you're having a conversation with your friend. Oh, you're just being a victim right now. Nobody's going to listen to that, right? Nobody wants to hear you say that. And so what my whole thing is that when we get that we are victims, that's what Wynn was really saying, is that when I can actually see in my own mind that I'm being a victim about it, then I can say, okay, I now can choose to no longer be a victim. That's what I was hearing out of what Wynn said.
Yeah, it's just like being in a 12-step program. Acknowledgement of the truth is the very first step. Unless you do that, you can't take any other steps to move forward. You're always going to be caught up in that cycle.
And what's crazy is that none of us really ever truly want to say, you know what, I'm being a victim right now. Let me step out of victim mentality and take my power back, because that's the only place that you can do it. And unfortunately for me, it was a big, huge, gigantic risk because I had never had business experience. But I said, hey, let me just quit. Let me go and take my power back and figure it out along the way. And for me, that was 13 years ago. And I think that for a lot of people, it's hard to get to that point of where you say, you know what, I can actually admit it. I'm being the victim in this situation. So when you're right, just like the first step, I have to admit it. I have to acknowledge it.
And what
No, go ahead, Wynn. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what had me think about that is, like way back in, our former generations before us, they had so many obstacles and so much treachery to endure. But through it all, they actually had personal accountability, because they knew, despite what it looked like, what they had to endure each and every day, that they had to live and survive and ultimately thrive and generate, the life that they wanted to live, not only for themselves, but for their families and for future generations.
Yeah, they had something at stake. And the brothers can't help themselves. We got solution mode baked in, but the conversation is flowing how the conversation is flowing. But if we can move off of this segment, the takeaway is definitely awareness and then the desire to change. I think we should make it a practice. Like, let's rewrite the rules of what maleness and masculinity looks like. And this is not just a principle for men or women. Let's just change the game and get real comfortable, almost intoxicated by calling our victimhood out. So let's just make it a practice to bring it from the peripheral, from the hidden, get it up out your closet and put it right there in front of your nose and call it what it is, because those areas are the areas, I would argue, of greatest opportunity for growth for each and every one of us. right? All right. So we talked about, areas where we've avoided it. How about some areas where we've actually deployed it and it yielded the desired or anticipated outcome? So we'll start with you. When think about areas where you've actually deployed and consciously deployed personal accountability, how it went and what your mindset was.
I mean, I deploy that each and every day with respect to my career. I know that nobody's going to hand it to me. I know nobody's going to lay that, flat out on a silver platter and say, here, here's this paper, here's these degrees, here's these certifications. This is what it's going to be to get you where you want to go. You just got to be dedicated, committed to putting in the work. I mean, it's just as plain as that, I mean, at the end of the day, you really have to ask yourself and be truthful. What is the outcome that I want? And what is required? What are the series of steps that it's going to take to get there? Who do I need to ask for help? Who do I need to ask for guidance? Who do I need to ask for mentorship, coaching? What is it really going to take? And be open to, fail and make mistakes, and then ask more questions and fill in those gaps. But at the end of the day, you got to be committed to getting where you want to go to. And that means respect to career, relationships, marriage, fatherhood, parenthood, whatever endeavor, whatever space that you want to, win at, that's what's required. And that's really the bottom line.
Well said. Thanks for that, Win. How about you, Earth? Areas where you've deployed it at your will and it yielded the desired or anticipated outcome.
I mean, once you get the distinction, it becomes, and you practice it, and you begin to really apply it. It becomes like an everyday thing. Like Win was talking about, like, for me to sit and point out one area, that's not as easy because I'm always applying it. I apply it in my business, on a consistent basis. That's something I have to apply every single day. Those of you who have a business, that it's always in flux. Always. There's always a lot of moving parts. And so, I'm clear, like, I have to first take responsibility for all of it. Mm-hmm. Everything that's favorable and unfavorable. And even when I take responsibility for things that are unfavorable, I do it with the same level of energy that I do when it's something that's not favorable or something that is favorable. So the energy that I put in is the same. And once that's done, to be accountable for it just becomes easy. It gets to a point, once you begin to really apply it to your life, you get how freeing it is. And so for me, I always want to exist like in that space of like I just feel free, and I'm experiencing freedom. And so it's something that I apply all the time. And when I began to apply it on a regular basis, it became like breathing for the most part. That's what it boils down to. So yeah. So it's not as easy for me to pinpoint like, oh, this major thing happened, because I'm applying it on a consistent basis. So
yeah, I can relate to that. I remember when we first got the distinction, and I applied it sweepingly across every area of my life. My whole life transformed. And so, at that time, beginning to be a practitioner of personal accountability, you see incremental changes in multiple areas of your life, but the sweeping changes where you can say, okay, before personal accountability X, after personal accountability Y, because it pervades your entire being at this juncture. Water, how about you, bro?
I already gave my example. I kind of jumped the gun, with once I realized that, career wise. So yeah, I'll just pass so we can move on to the next.
Copy that. So along, I'm gonna jump around a little bit. One of the questions that I have here is, what's in the way? What do you guys believe is in the way for folks who avoid personal accountability? And the reason why I think it's important to unpack that, because there's somebody watching that probably feels like they have a very high levels of personal accountability in their lives, but there's some opportunity right there in your blind spot. So what are some of the reasons why, generally, based on you all's dealings with folks, friends, family, colleagues, etc., clients, that you've come some conclusions that you've come to around why people avoid it?
Yeah, I'll take that one first. So it's a couple of reasons. One, it's not knowing the difference between fault and responsibility, because nobody really wants to be at fault for anything. And many people believe that if I take responsibility, that means I bear some fault. Not necessarily. For example, I could be responsible if I walked across the street and got hit by a drunk driver. Now, is it my fault? No, but I'm responsible for leaving the house at 6 p.m., crossing the street at whatever time, making those choices to be in the intersection. I could be 100% responsible for that, but I'm not at fault. And so a lot of times people don't know the distinction. Most people don't want to be at fault for things. That's number one. Secondly, really, it boils down to how we're trained, especially within our religious institutions, because we're trained to practice, like misplaced blame. When something happens and I have nothing going on with anybody's religion, I practice Christianity, grew up in it, blah, blah, blah. But I'm very clear about, the ways of being in there. The moment life doesn't work, it's the devil's fault. And we say it in our language, Satan is a lie. Every time something doesn't go well, it's not the person's fault. They point the finger someplace else, and it doesn't work. So it puts you in this mindset of, oh, if things aren't working, it's never my fault. There has to be something outside of me that is causing this issue. So they point at other people, they point at some entity or whatever they point at, instead of looking and saying, wait a minute, hold up, it's me. I'm here. I made this choice. My lights got turned off because guess what? I didn't pay the bill. How about that? And I asked for money from people once the lights were off, instead of knowing a month ago, I'm probably not going to have these $200. So let me start asking, 5 people. I need $20 from 5 people. So let me go down my phone list and call however many people until I ask 5 people $20 and they give it to me. That's a way where you can start being accountable for all of your outcomes. But we don't think about it in that way. We wait until, boom, this has happened. Now, it ain't my fault. If I would have got paid, if this person would have done that, the devil is a lie, whatever we say. And we run that. That's like a running theme, within our language, within our community, period.
Ooh, man, you went straight to the. I think those are the most common within the diaspora. At least I can speak for my aunties, uncles, and cousins and family members that even myself in areas where there's opportunity for me, it's avoidance, because it's the fault, the blame, the shame, the guilt, right? And I think to piggyback to that and see if anybody else has anything to add to it, I also see where some folks have created a victim disposition that is so real for them that it's become their identity. Like they identify as victims, they identify as familial black sheeps, right? These are the ones that, they always say stuff like, man, I can't catch a break, man. Can't catch a break, bro. I can't get right, man. Nothing good ever happens for me, man. I mean, I wish I had your luck. You would actually have to die to that whole character in order for opportunity and for you to perceive opportunity or see things as they actually are. Like that whole, and for people who have no identity outside of that, it feels like it feels like a death. Like who am I if I'm not, if something's not always happening to me, then who am I? Right? If I start getting blessings and good things and having my desires manifest itself, I wouldn't know what to do with myself, man. Also, as you were talking, Earth, I began to get present to just how much additional burden folks place on people that they love when they operate in the domain of no personal accountability, because it's your parents, it's your siblings, it's your spouse, it's your life partner, it's your best friend, it's your boss, it's your subordinate. Somebody's always running to the aid of the person who just refuses to accept and acknowledge and assume any accountability or responsibility for their thoughts, words, and or deeds. That's what I see. Anybody want to add to what Earth said about reasons why folks avoid it?
Yeah, I really think that the identity thing was overglossed. Really, to me, victims have identity. They have an identity that they've developed over time, that they've worked really hard to create, and worked even harder to continue to allow to survive and thrive. So if I feel like white people are out to get me, then guess what? I'm not going to see a white person who's not out to get me. It's not even possible. It's not even, I'm blind to that. And so, and this is a real one, right? This is a real one. I hear so many people in my circles saying things about white people as if white people are doing something to them, and then they call me the white dude because I'm like, hey, I don't subscribe to that. So, and let me make it really clear. Like, yes, racism does exist. However, that ain't stopping me from being a multimillionaire. I ain't stopping at $1 million. I'm talking about multi-millions. So everybody who has the victim mentality of white people, this, I can't, whatever, because of that, bro, you're holding yourself back. And it's unfortunate that we don't want to actually break out of that actual mold to say, hey, listen, my identity does have to be that. I can actually step outside of that to create something different. And exactly what Earth was saying, like, I can't go and take the payoff for being a victim and then be assigning the fault to someone else. Or I guess I can, but that would be the victim just feeding the victim more food so that the victim can grow and strengthen itself more. However, the moment that I take responsibility, I'm no longer pointing a finger at something, someone, or some circumstance outside of myself. I'm just basically taking it, saying, hey, if it's going to happen, I better make it happen. And if it doesn't happen, I did not make it happen, because you better be sure that if it does happen, I'm going to take responsibility for that. Like if I'm successful, I'm like, yeah, I did this. However, most of the time, if I fail, I don't say, yeah, I did that. I want to take the responsibility for when I succeed, but I don't want to take responsibility for when I fail. So I would just like to add that.
And for me, I think that I think it's a major blind spot for most people. I think that we're just simply not self-aware and conscious to the extent that we can actually do something productive. And the unfortunate part is that when we're like that, we tend to be around people that are yes men and that support that
echo chamber. That's
yeah
my word.
Yeah, that groupthink, right? And so if that exists, then you can never actually get out of that, right? So you need people around you that debate with you and that don't necessarily agree with you and that will hold you accountable and put up a mirror to you and that actually discuss with you about different manners in which you can actually operate, right? But I wanted to say this, is that we have to look at responsibility in a different manner, right? Responsibility at its core is the ability to respond in a healthy manner, ability to respond in a loving manner, ability to respond in a progressive manner. And if we use that type of thinking, then, sky's the limit. It's not, responsibility is not blame, fault, and guilt like you guys are talking about. It's not about, who's right and who's wrong. We got to get up out of the significance of who's right, because that's really adversely impacting us as a community. It doesn't matter if the man is wrong and the women are right, or vice versa. That doesn't get you to any solution regarding marriage or relationship. You have to be able to work things out with people and negotiate and compromise and look at things from various vantage points. So I just wanted to insert that. One last thing. With regard to you asked us how are we accountable such that we produce successes. One of the things that I think that's missing from men is that we also have to be accountable for our fun and leisure. When you work many hours and you're very serious, to live a healthy life, you have to be responsible and accountable for, enjoying your life. So I just wanted to add that little piece.
I agree. I want to add on to that because I just had discovered that for myself. And I think that it's having for men, I'm a man, I can't speak for women. For men, I think that it's really important for us to have hobbies. Whatever it is that you're into, everybody has their own thing. And check it out. Some guys, women, they like video games. That doesn't make them a nerd, a geek, whatever. That's their hobby. And that's what they enjoy doing. Mine, I like being outdoors. I like snowboarding, skiing, hiking. I like stuff like that. And so for me, what Wynn just said is I really just discovered that I really truly have a passion for snowboarding. And so like I go in on it. I mean, I've spent the money for the trips. I block the time off. I take the time away from work. I go do it. And I think that leisure allows me to have that total balance in my life where I'm able to get back into my career and really go hit it hard because I'm reinvigorated. I'm re-energized. My cup is full. It's not drained from work. It's like I work, I play, I work, I play, but I play doing things that really, really fill me up as opposed to something that somebody else likes or enjoys. So I agree with that, Wynn.
And you got to explore things and be curious about life. That's how you go and grow. You got to do different things. You got to be open and receptive to new things.
Yeah.
This is good, man. I'm just taking notes because it the more and more we talk about this topic, guys, I'm just realizing like we talked. You remember when we were in the forum, we talked about integrity and how with integrity, any and everything is possible, and without integrity, nothing is possible. And we defined, or we agreed to the definition of integrity as being honoring and being your word and keeping yourself and others in an empowering context. So it's the honoring and being your word to yourself and others, and keeping yourself and others in an empowering context. That being said, when you mentioned it earlier about knowing your role and your responsibilities, or having a vision and knowing where you want to go, I want to just revisit that because I think it is important. It's extremely important foundationally to ask yourself these questions. If you're struggling or grappling with who you are and why you are here, ask yourself, who am I? Just start with existentially, who am I and why am I here, in a meditative state, and see what you get. What are my values and principles? Because now we're talking about how you show up as a human being without the titles of mom or dad, husband or wife, or leader, manager, VP, whatever, boy, girl, man, woman. Like, strip yourself down to your essence and ask these questions. Who am I and why am I here? What are my values? What are my core values? What are my principles? What are my morals? What do I believe in? These questions help you design and define who you are to the world existentially. And then from there, you could begin to craft how a person of that nature would show up. It's in the ways that you be, and also in what you do. So before we take on jobs, we take on entrepreneur, we take on mommy, daddy, husband, wife. Like, who are you as a human being or a spiritual being having a human experience? I will start there, because what you come up with in that domain will pervade every other domain. And with that being said, I'm gonna pose this question for Earth, because he's somebody who has done exactly this and is now expressing himself in the world aligned with who he believes, who he is, like the medicine that he is to the world. So the question for you, Earth, is when you think about personal accountability and how you developed and came to know who you was and what your mission is, tell us or share with us a little bit about your process. It may have been unconscious, bro. It may have just happened, or you may have sat back and thought about it, or it came to you an impartation from your elders. What was your process?
Well, how much time we have? Okay. I'll condense it as much as possible.
Yeah.
Really, it's listening. Because everybody is born with a purpose. Everyone is born not as who they show up as today. So we all have a nature. We're all born as something or someone. And as we go through life, you will literally hear repeatedly, do this, do that. You hear this little voice that speaks to you. And generally we ignore it for the most part. And what that voice is saying to you is, go here and your purpose is there. That's what it's saying. And the moment I began to listen, because one of the things that plagues, I would say, this country, but I'm going to specifically talk about our community, is there is a lack of listening comprehension and reading comprehension. There are people who actually hear things, but they're not listening. When you listen to something, you comprehend it, and you can respond to what you comprehend. And you can only evaluate what you listen to. That's it. And so really it's listening and adhering to the messages and the directives that you receive. You don't really have to go like this deep inner space. You can, that's fine. But life is designed to always point us in the direction in which we need to go. It always points to our path, whether it's in a dream, whether someone says, wow, you'd be great if you do this, whether we're being prompted or pushed to do something, which may be outside of our comfort zone. It may be being something that we don't know ourselves to be. It could be that. But it's just simply listening. And then when you listen to something, you can get confirmation from your friends and family, whomever, because they know you. Whatever the message is, share it. Say, you know what? Something been telling me I need to do this. What do you think about that? And your friends and family they'll be up, if they're your real friends and family, they'll be upfront with you. They'll say, man, that's a great idea. I think you'd be great doing it. And you just begin to pursue whatever that thing is. It's not difficult. It's not rocket science. But before I got what it is, it was rocket science. Be clear about that. But once I got it, I realized it's not. And once you start that path, you'll notice that everything you need to fulfill whatever that is already laid out for you. And it is easy. It is not difficult. Now, to level yourself up to be who you need to be to totally fulfill it, it's going to take something, because who you are today is someone who's insufficient in order to fulfill it. And so just leveling up and get to that space, that's a different conversation. But to initially get there, listen, because it's you always hear. And I will divine for people, and I'll say, oh, you should be doing this, 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 and this. For example, there's this woman I was divining for today. And she asked about her purpose, and I started telling her time and time and time, people will actually start crying because they know that this is actually what it is. They know. And so when I start, many times I tell people, like, this is what the divination is saying, this, and this. There's so many people who break down in tears because they know I'm just confirming what they already know. And then it's up to them to take the initiative to actually, take those steps to fulfill upon that. And I give instruction on how to do that also. But, it's up to them to adhere to that. That's their choice at that point. So yeah, that's pretty much, how that would go. That's like a simple version of it. There's some other things that you can do also, but that's like the easiest thing that anybody can do. Like today is listen. That costs you nothing to just listen. It's free. So yeah, that's that.
I appreciate it. I wanted to circle back with you on that because I think sometimes, at least for me, I can get tools and distinctions and apply them in a fear-based realm, right? So like I could get empowerment and then apply it to the Matrix experience. And I forget that, with this tool, I can deploy inside of a whole new realm of possibilities. Like I don't have to bring it into the old realm. I can operate from the place of me being 100% responsible for what is so and what is not so. I want to deploy it in that domain. And so I didn't want the listeners or the elementals to go back with the similar disempowered thinking and thoughts and try to apply these things, but go deeper into your existential why and begin to build out who you are and why you're here and how you want to express yourself fully in the world. And the reason why I want you to get that is these guys can tell you, they know who I am. And I've shown flashes of my full self-expression, flashes, but I've not gone for it full time, right? I've been able to accomplish great things in a very safe domain, in the corporate domain, a very linear world, and move up and make, and make a lot of money. At least that's, what my limiting belief said was a lot of money. And one day these guys said, dude, just because, you're at a couple $100,000 club, you feel good about that. You're living in Calabasas, you're paying your bills. But it was Wentz said to me, he's like, dude, you got millions in you. You got millions in you. And so your lack of obedience and fear, more than that, your lack of obedience and fear is the only obstacles that are in the way. Water talked about his full self-expression and how he listened. Some unction told him, this is it. Your career here is over. As a matter of fact, don't go looking for another job. Start your own business. No previous experience. It's been like 11, 12 years now, man. And so he's being true to himself. To thine own self be true. I think somebody said it. I want the elementals to build and create from the space of love and the space of consciousness and the space of obedience. This is not some old 10 commandments. Thou shalt not do this and do that. This is no disrespect. This is what obedience has become for me. Whenever I experience or I witness, even observe myself listening to those calls, those unctions, those nudges, the still small voice or the whisper, and getting in action without hesitation, man, that's where I feel most alive. And as a matter of fact, I spent a lot of time not obeying, and I can tell you there's no fulfillment there. Personally, for me, it's like Groundhog Day on the hamster wheel or the treadmill.
But But if we really wanted to, take the show to another level, then we would turn that question back on to Fire and say, so when will you actually listen?
Well, I think that the question is, when will you listen fully? 'Cause I listen part and partisan. I would say, like, this show is a function of listening. The building Ultimate Team is a function of listening. Being in California is a function of listening. But what's really there, if we were to give it language and be completely authentic about it and naked, it's when are you going to live and play full time? Because I listen and I play every day, but it's not. I would say it's like 70, 75%. And so to answer your question that way in that context, Water, I don't know. I don't know, but I believe that I'll go
Answer.
full time. I'll go full time when the fear is gone, and when the fear will be gone is when there's probably sufficient equity or savings or passive cash flows for me to do that. That's the honest answer. There's no way I'm going to do it.
So you
Exactly. Now the show
like,
is starting. Now the show has started. Like,
so what you're
52
telling
minutes.
us is that you are kind of pregnant. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
He's a half. He's a halfway crook.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's right. Hey, look, I got it's just providence. It's it's basically just logic. It's inflows of cash and outflows of cash. And what I believe needs to be present in order for me to take a leap like that. So you all know. Thank you, Water, for making this the Fire show for the last 10 minutes, you son of a gun. But it's the right question, bro. It's the right.
It's selective obedience.
Yes, it's selective obedience. Here's the thing. I've experienced the leap. Like I've done the leap before, and I don't regret the leap. It's just that my experience, and not just my experience, my family's experience as a result of said leap, multiple leaps, it was painful for them, and the stakes are a lot higher now, and so I'm cautious. I'm not willing to put them through that. And I know you could say, well, who's to say that they will go through that? I think the truth of the matter is there's no guarantee that they will. There's also no guarantee that they won't. And I like to know that there's no guarantee that they won't. And because of what I have stored up, and because of what I created in a passive way, to make sure we don't have to go backwards again. We started from scratch several times, man.
So
that
listen,
was tough.
Listen, elementals. This guy is explaining the exact reason why none of us take the leap. And I love hearing it, bro, because like we've all been on the other side of that. Us three, we've been on the other side of that. And as far as the career path, you've been on the other side in other ways, like the relationship path, right? So none of us are married type thing. So everyone always has their reasons. We all do. Always. The reasons are always there. And I appreciate you for participating in that so we can hear like what you say the reason is for you. Earth, you were going to say something?
No, I mean, he said something that was key out of everything he said. He said, like, starting over. And I can say from personal experience, I just had to trust what I know. That's all I had to do. Because when I stopped doing consulting work, literally something just said stop. And I was like, whoa, time out. Hold up. Wait a minute. How am I going to supplement my income? And all I heard was trust us. That's it. And so I just shrugged my shoulders and I was like, okay, that's what it is, period. And so you just have to trust
Yeah.
what you know, not what you believe. We had that belief conversation. Not what you have faith in, not what you hope. Trust what you know, because you are way too smart, way too intelligent. You have so much in you to lead, to actually have to start over. That's not even something that's remotely possible to start over. It's not remotely possible. If you things don't go well, you get another job, you just snap your finger for the most part, and you'll have what you need. But I'll just say trust. You just have to trust what you know. Period. And I know that it is, I can say like, oh, I just shrugged my shoulders and blah blah blah. But there was fear there. I was like, whoa, how is this gonna? And I just kept hearing that over and over and over. So I just said, you know what? I'm a consultant. If it doesn't work, I just go start consulting again. That's simple.
And my two
Yeah.
cents is
And
this.
hold on, before you give your 2 cents, let me just add to what Earth said is that, hey, and like if they put me in the grave tomorrow, tonight I will die knowing that I went for it. Wind.
And I would say this is that, what you just described is analogous to men and women being mad at the opposite sex for the breadth of their relationships. And the crazy thing about that is that we talk about a handful of relationships or a handful of people, and we compare that to the entire world where they approximate 8 billion people. You can't make those comparisons. So what you have to do instead is acknowledge that you're a whole different person than you were right back then. You got a whole set of tools, a whole set of different capacities, and you simply do things in a systematic and planned way as opposed to being impulsive and rash about making decisions. You're more prepared, and you know how to prepare, and you got a greater network of people in your corner to help support everything that you want to do. I know you to be a rock star, and that's all I know you as. You're a tremendous human being. Everybody loves you, from the East Coast to the West Coast, worldwide. And everybody is going to love you worldwide when they meet you and when they see you. I know it's only a matter of time, so I never press you about it, but I think that
A
your
water
time is your
does.
time is coming soon. I mean, we talk about it all the time. I mean, I text you about it today. Your time is coming soon. And what I would say is that, in addition to that, is that life is just like that yellow brick road. I love the Wizard of Oz because it's a fable where people thought that they were less than, and they found themselves to be greater than what they even imagined. And that's how it's going to be for you. There is no Oz. There is no wizard. You are the greatest person. Accountability is the ability to account. Account for who? Account for yourself. Account for your family. Account for your community. And what is it to account for? It means to show up. Show up powerfully for yourself. Show up powerfully for your family. Show up powerfully for your community.
Man, that this show took a turn at about 51 minutes and 36 seconds on Waters Go. But it's perfect, God. Listen, elementals. Fire's in the hot seat, but I can handle it. Trust me.
You're in a loving seat, bro.
I'm in the seat of love. With my brothers in front of all of you, naked and exposed, not having all the answers, having accomplished some really extraordinary things, and not even scratching the surface of what I'm capable of simultaneously. What I know is that this path leads to being halfway pregnant in perpetuity. What I know is that that I could use my gifts and my skills to accomplish great things in man's eyes and get paid handsomely for it. But it pales in comparison to the impact that I could have. And so some of you know me know that I wanted to be an angel when I grew up, as well as a football player and a businessman. Few of you who know me know that existentially I'm created, that my medicine is to be cause for a shift in consciousness at the level of humanity, and to help my brothers and sisters self-discover, self-realize, and self-actualize. So it really is essentially, who am I? Why am I here? And what should I be doing? What's my medicine to the world? And then how do I get busy administering it? Is actually me being my medicine is I don't know. There's a tribe out there who's waiting for me to be my medicine. Yeah. So suffice it to say, I'll close with this and then closing comments, and then Earth will take us out. So as I was listening to myself and my brothers, what there is for me to do, because I can't not be who I am. And put yourself in my shoes. I can't not be who I am. I can't turn it off. It is what it is. I know that with provisions in passive income and or savings account to cover our expenses for a year or preferably two, that I have 12 to 24 months to really like focus on my mission. And so what there is for me to do is to get busy or creating those provisions or allowing those provisions to flow to me. They're all around me. I can't tell you how many ideas and business opportunities are falling in my lap in the last couple of weeks. And so to these guys, it's been 12 years of this conversation. For some of you who don't know me, it's been 10 minutes. But it's been going on literally my whole entire life since I was a child. So me being my existential why is coming. And I don't feel guilt or shame or embarrassment about it. I'm fully appreciative of my three brothers here and you all for allowing this conversation to take shape. I really hope you find yourselves in it. Closing comments will go, if you got any wind, we'll go wind, water, and then earth. My closing comments is everything that I just said. Put yourself in my shoes, in my seat. You are me. You have a God-breathed, ancestor-breathed purpose. You signed a contract. You are here for a specific reason or a way of being. Find out what that is, because I promise you, living a life outside of that or halfway, half-baked, you won't experience a full freedom of expression and full power. I'm telling you that first person. When?
Purpose is my favorite word. It's the guiding light that steers you through everything. And if you hold yourself accountable to that purpose, your word, your commitment, you can't lose. You cannot lose when you are aligned with your purpose. And when you make your actions consistent with that purpose, your behavior, your everyday behavior, when you interact with people in alignment with that, you can't lose. So I'll just pause right there and tell everybody enjoy the week. Replay this tape.
Wow. It's the shortest that I've heard Win speak in a long time, buddy. So man, that was man, we have to replicate that. We have to figure out what was going on to get him to replicate that. I just want to say, listen, be inspired. Look at this guy, Fire, who actually look, he showed up today and he actually got naked. He exposed himself and was vulnerable enough to share with everyone so that they can look in the mirror, because look, this guy is super successful. Okay. I mean, he is a boss. So former NFL player, that's now, an executive in the corporate world. Look, this guy is not lacking. This guy is not hurting. This guy's, there's no knock on this guy. So what there is there's area for growth and there's area for improvement, which is what the elements are all about. So just be inspired that you were able to witness one of the elements who was able to show up today. And then go look in the mirror and see where you yourself are not in alignment with your purpose. Earth.
Nice. So I guess I'll take us out of here real quick. 2 main points. One is that, we talked about purpose, and we all have a purpose. Whatever that purpose is, it's just what it is. And if you are not fulfilling your purpose or in the pursuit of fulfilling your purpose, then you literally serve no purpose. You're useless. That's the reality of it. You have no use to anyone. And so it's just important to really begin the process of fulfilling that purpose. It's vitally important, and we all need to be, on that ship, on that boat. And secondly, you, in regards to being accountable, you have got to be accountable, and this ties into purpose, for the people who will perish waiting for you to be a yes in regards to the fulfillment of your purpose. Because for many of us, there are people literally waiting for us to be a yes and to begin to fulfill our purpose. And many people will die, will perish, waiting for us to get ourselves together, to be a yes. So think about that. Chew on that for just a moment. And you have to be responsible for that. There's accountability that goes into play with that. Because for many of us, people, we are someone's salvation. We are someone's last hope, really. We are. And the more we delay, it causes them to come closer and closer and closer to the end for them, whatever the end is for them. So we have to be accountable for that. We have to be responsible for all of it, because we chose to come here to fulfill upon that. Nobody kicked you out and said, "Oh, you better do this." We said, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it." And when you don't do it, you actually become a liar and a trickster. Period. So I'll leave everybody with that. So anyway, next week. Well, yeah, next week, we're going to do a what's it called? Water?
A vlog. We're dropping a vlog.
Yeah, a collection next week. So that's what we're going to do next week. So it's going to be really good. You are going to be very, very excited. I'm excited about it, and I haven't seen it. I just participated in it, so I know it's going to be fire. And the week after that, it'll be my turn, and I am going to talk about. Y'all ready for this? You ready for this?
No.
Oh, I didn't think so. So the topic is going to be, is sex sacred? That is going to be the topic. It's going to be a hot topic, because I hear that bounce around a lot, the sacredness of sex. So we're gonna dive deep into that. Very deep. So that's all I got. Until next time, peace.
Make sure to subscribe because the vlog will be exclusive to YouTube.
Yeah.